you so much, Lisa. You might be wondering why we started with that song today. And there is a story behind it. Well, as metaphysicians, we are so good at reinterpreting things, aren't we? Have you ever done that? Like we have reinterpreted Bible, we have reinterpreted song lyrics, we just reinterpret everything to match with the what we believe, to match with the oneness, to match with the beauty of nature. We interpret things. So I'm going to give you a little different interpretation of the drummer boy. Well, maybe not so different. But if we think about it, it's a story about this peasant boy, his experience of meeting the Christ. And so he is asked, come, they told him. Now, these people that told him to come and follow them, they were apparently the wise men, or who we call the wise men. And they're giving frankincense, gold, myrrh. And this boy has none of that. He's probably not even seen that, nor could he ever afford that. He has nothing to offer as a gift. And yet they're going, they ask him to come. And there is the call, the summons that we all receive. Come, come. And so when they get to the manger, the boy, I don't know, maybe they push him to the front. I don't know how this happens. But he says to the child, this Christ within, he says, little baby, I'm a poor boy too, because he arrived at this manger, and the manger doesn't look like um, that Jesus was a rich boy being born. But the fact of the matter is, if he hadn't had some funds, he wouldn't even have gone to the inn to be rejected and have gone to the manger. So there was something going on there. Anyhow, he says, I'm a poor boy too. I have no gift to give a king. But he says, I can play the drum. Would you like to hear a drum song? Now, at a birth, I'm not sure that drumming is like the best gift for a newborn. I don't know. I've never had one, but my guess is, well, Mary nodded. And so he played his drum. He played his drum that was his own gift, whatever time or talent, it was his song, and he gave it, and he did his best. And isn't that what we're all trying to do? It's like we're all born with a gift, with a special purpose. And the gift the divine gave to you is what you have to give to others. Now, how we live by the guiding light in terms of that gift, how we live our dharma is our highest duty. It's not always easy, and but it feels right. It feels like I am doing what I came here to do. And that is how we turn our unique God-given gifts, talents, responsibilities, skills, and inspiration into action. I remember seeing a card that says, be yourself. Everybody else is taken. The Bhagavad Gita says it like this. He says, it's better to try and struggle on our own dharma than to succeed in somebody else's. So today, let's ask, what gift is it that we have to bring? And no offering is too small or insignificant when you give your best. And so today we're talking about the yearly theme is Living Everyday Wonder. This month theme is community. And today we're talking about belonging. See, there's a deep longing within each one of us to belong. The drummer boy wanted to belong. He wanted to be part of that larger assemblage that gave the gift to the Christ. And our affirmation, wherever I go, I belong. So as human beings, we create community. And community is that invisible membrane that we all live inside of. Just think of it as a big balloon or a series of balloons or a series of circles. Community is where we play out our lives on a larger scale, both consciously and unconsciously. It's the first circle in what creates our larger society structures. beginning, well, with family, with our family circle, whatever that was as you were born into a family. And so it starts there, and then it goes all the way to our culture as a country, to our global heart. All of that is community. And so at the micro level, it's our individual choices that influence not only our own experience, but those experiences around us. And so that's why at the Austin Center, we are a community growing in love and joy. The beautiful alchemy of our community unfolds when we come into the realization that through our sphere of influence, the things that we're concerned about, the communities that we enter into, we intersect with the greater whole each and every day. And this is the point of power when we make decisions about how we wish to be in community. So, do I wish to be in a community that is growing in love and joy? And we actively welcome those that we previously may have been unaware of. So, we welcome in people into our community. I remember a book Jack Addington wrote called Draw the Larger Circle. Now, I don't remember exactly what the book said, but I remember the title. And I always remember draw the larger circle. When someone draws a circle around themselves to close me out, then it's my job to draw a larger circle that includes that circle. So draw the larger circle. And this is how our diverse world becomes a living gift to us. We celebrate December as a time of unique, in awareness of our unique gifts while seeing those gifts all around us. And we enter into this idea of a bigger community. So I know you've heard that one of Groucho Marx's most memorable catchphrases was that he would never wish to be part of a group that would have him as a member. And yet, he was a core member of the Marx Brothers, which was a famous comedic group in the 1930s and 40s. We all want to belong, and it's through this desire to belong that community occurs. And our opportunity lies in consciously creating a community through our active individual gifts. So, as I said in the opening, we are a spiritual community growing together in love and joy. Our purpose is to inspire magnificence, to explore spiritual principles, to practice affirmative prayer and meditation, to care about each other, and to contribute to the consciousness of the larger community. Now, I know some of you were part of that circle, the community that came together when we developed this statement. And we invite everyone to come and grow with us. So we explore spiritual principles. Science of Mind reminds people of their wholeness. So wholeness is both an individual experience and the peace and wholeness that expresses through the collective oneness. Being in community and creating an inviting space where not only the individual but the community flourishes assists in creating a world that works for everyone. And that's what we're about. We're about a world that works for everyone. A world that works for all, not just people, for all. So this is similar to the progression of the four kingdoms of consciousness. Perhaps you've heard us talk about this before. So you evolve from to me consciousness. So it's to me, for me, through me, and now it's as me. So the beloved community unfolds as us. So when I choose to embody this idea of belonging, I acknowledge my unique gifts and prepare myself to share them. I'm also prepared to see and acknowledge the gifts of those around me. In other words, my actions set into motion the conscious creation of community. Our whole experience of life is a relationship. Every single moment is centered in the way we relate to what's happening. Psychologists tell us that our human need to belong is our innate state of being. We come into this world with a need to belong to someone. And without belonging, we wither. We fail to thrive. So having a sense of belonging is important. And, we consider like the groups, the labels we give ourselves. We are members of families. We're members of a school team, maybe. We're members of a specific hobby group, a spiritual group, definitely here. Um, we may be a member of a political party. We're a member of our neighborhood. Uh, we're a member of our city, of the country, of the world. And we want to belong. So the sense of belonging is fundamental to the way that we organize ourselves. If it was unimportant, we would live solitary lives. We would, once the kids grew up, we'd say, okay, leave home. We wouldn't have, we would just be by ourselves if we didn't have that need to belong. But we long for a place where we belong wholly and completely. And that longing is satisfied in spiritual community when we realize we are home and we've never left. Brene Brown tells us this. She says, because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world, our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. Once we belong thoroughly to ourselves and believe thoroughly in ourselves, true belonging is ours. I ran across a blog by Isira, and Isira was an indigenous wisdom keeper from Australia. And as a young adult, Tibetan lamas recognized her as an important incarnation, brought her from Adelaide, South Australia, to the Himalayas to be ordained by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And so I was interested in what she had to say about this appearance as a gift. She says, our perceived disconnection from spirit is at the root of all our conflicts. This disconnection underlies every issue we endure as individuals and as a human race. As a result, we feel dislocated in our lives and in ourselves. We have distorted perception of everything we encounter, which in turn influences our whole experience. Because simply put, all that we experience is filtered through our perception. All that we experience is filtered through our perceptions. And these perceptions then lead us to experience what we think. As we experience what we think, we make it our belief system. From our belief system, we continue to think and act in ways that shape our entire experience of life. Wow, isn't that true? So, in the spirit of authenticity and being vulnerable, one of my, I don't know what you want to call it, fears, I guess, uh, is this idea of belonging, of not belonging, but specifically, nobody likes me. Nobody really likes me. I had this as a kid. There was this little song that my sister told me. Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. I'm going to go eat worms. And it's like, that is still in my head. Can you believe it? Okay, so letting that go moment by moment, day by day. See, sometimes we protect ourselves from the fear of rejection by saying, I don't belong. Maybe to the spiritual community, maybe to our city, to our country. Like, oh, yes, we're in Texas, but we don't really belong to Texas. We really just belong in Austin. Uh, this is a delusion of separation. We isolate ourselves to avoid the pain of anticipated rejection. And we need to lean into our urge to belong, which calls us to be vulnerable and transparent. Ernest Holmes says this. He says, what would happen if we could convert the energy of fear to faith, the energy of doubt and uncertainty into a feeling of belonging to the universe and being safe in it? Would not the original artist himself go forth into new creation through us? Yes, thoughts are things. It is done to us as we believe. Change your thinking, change your life. Science of Mind calls for us to recognize wholeness, spirit itself expressing through all things. And if it is here, it is to be known. There's no separation. The only separation is in our minds, in our ego that creates that illusion of separation. Science of mind is the compassionate, practical application of seeking to see that wholeness through all experiences, including all expressions of humanity itself. I want to quote Isera again. She says, the first symptom to come out of our perceived disconnection with spirit is the belief of separation. This manifests in our ideas and mental constructs of other. We develop and experience something other than source, something other than soul, eternal life, and other than everything else we see. This sense of separation extends beyond a split from source and oneself into a sense of separation from every other part of creation. Every person we meet, who is really part of the infinite self, is encountered as other. Not only is there a sense of other, there's also a sense of opposite. Our experience is one of duality, me and you, this and that, right and wrong. See that opening song today? One life living as you and me. One love living as you and me. This is what we're really about. We could just sing that song and we wouldn't have to even go any further than that. So diversity is human attribute. We know that not everybody is the same, but diversity is a quality of life. And there's an infinite variety of expressions. I don't know if you've noticed that, but what I've noticed is there's just a variety of expressions. And one person's idea about what is good and perfect and beautiful may not be the same as somebody else's. And as our world becomes smaller, we see that more. So we're no longer just in our own little enclave of sameness. We see a full range of diversity and this full expression of human rights. And it asks us to look at our communities. Ishira continues, whatever is seen as outside or other than ourselves is seen either as a threat or desirable. The grass is greener on the other side. We seek to either reject in order to protect ourselves or to possess in order to feel more complete. When we see ourself in other, it's no longer possible to form a relationship based in fear. So that's when we go into community. We no longer encounter the competition. We no longer have to protect or possess because we are in a state of relating and it's centered in love. And it is an expression that's alive and forever in the now. The more we're connected with self, the more we're connected with life. Thomas More, in his book Care of the Soul, says, soul yearns for attachment, for variety and personality, for intimacy and peculiarity. So it is these qualities in community that the soul seeks out, and not like-mindedness and uniformity. So this comes to my other point. Practice curiosity. Practicing curiosity in interactions with others develops deeper and richer relationships. Peter Block, in his book Community, The Structure of Belonging, says, if the essence of community is to create structures for belonging, then we're constantly inviting people who are strangers to us and to one another into the circle. Be curious. Something curious happened. I noticed this thing called Bodhi Day. Have you ever heard of Bodhi Day? It's December 8th, and it's a Buddhist holy day which is celebrated in Japan. And the tradition includes starting the day by decorating a ficus tree. This is called the Tree of Awakening. And you decorate it with strings of multicolored lights and beads, symbolizing the varied paths to nirvana and signifying the unity of all. It is the recognition that makes this practice come to life. Now, does that sound familiar? So, really, there's only one life. There is that one mind, and it shows up in so many different ways. Instead of a spruce or a fir, this is a ficus tree that's decorated with lights and beads. Same thing, light. So, what would it happen if we decorated tree this year, maybe a Christmas tree, maybe I've got a Norfolk pine out there I'm going to decorate. And consider the lights and different colored beads as individuals in your community of choice. And how do you see yourself belonging? Do any of these lights represent you? Who do they represent? Do you want to change anything? So it's no surprise that at the darkest time of the year, there's so many celebrations of light. Um, so again, practice curiosity. Do you know the story of the Maccabees and why Hanukkah is celebrated? And what about Kwanzaa? Do you know the seven principles? Isn't it curious that there are 9 candles in a menorah, 7 candles in the Kinara, 4 candles for Advent, plus the Christ candle, and then there are different colors of the candle mean different things. Curious, curious. But what's important for us is that we don't let the light go out. Curiosity expresses a genuine interest in other person's lived experience of the world, and it also allows us to check our own assumptions or biases. See, our personal sense of who represents community can be a result of ideas and norms formed in our youth. We may not realize how much bigger the world is until we step outside of our habits and comfort zone. And that's the beauty of traveling. We get to see how other people are. We are currently watching a Korean television program that is been dubbed in English. And it's interesting to see how that community is represented. And things are a little different. But we wouldn't be able to see that had we not been watching this program. It's called Attorney Wu, The Extraordinary Attorney Wu. Anyhow, I'll tell you more about that later. But isn't it great that we can be curious and experience this through our technology, maybe armchair travel or maybe actual travel. And the benefit is a greater, richer life and a richer community. And so going back to this idea of the little drummer boy, I've always liked this song, although some people absolutely hate it. But I was thinking about it today in light of I found myself doing just what he's doing, just banging that drum the best I can, thinking that that makes me worthy somehow. Um, but really, who needs a drummer at a birth? Um, so if I could talk to that little drummer boy or myself as a little drummer boy, I would say, you don't really need to perform. You don't need an award. You don't need a token of excellence. You don't need the blue ribbon to make yourself worth loving, worth being here. See, you're loved and received already. You have been adopted for life. And this idea that nobody likes you is absolutely not true. And you are loved and received already. Remember that. So the divine sees you. The divine already knows you. And you don't need a drum. You can put the drum down. You can stop performing and pretending. You can find rest in the wonder of the truth. And so that bigger truth is that we already belong simply by the fact we're here. Where you are right now, you belong. You are of spirit. You are a divine being of light. And in this month of light, each one is a bright light on that tree of awareness. Don't let that light go out. You belong here. You have been called here. Simply being you is enough. So we're going to put that into practice right now. And what I'd like you to do is put your hand over your heart and say, I belong. And today, as we go our separate ways, let's extend that feeling all around and say, I'm grateful you're here. You belong. And so as you look around in our Zoom room today, I just want to say, Janice, I'm glad you're here. You belong. Lisa, I'm glad you're here. You belong. Rob, I'm glad you're here. You belong. Yvonne, I'm glad you're here. You belong. Teresa, I'm glad you're here. You belong. Joy, I'm glad you're here. You belong. Dana Joy, I'm glad you're here. You belong. Delilah, I'm glad you're here. You belong. Janet, I'm glad you're here. You belong. Rolene, I'm glad you're here. You belong. Brett, I'm glad you're here. You belong. Kelly, I'm glad you're here. You belong. Georgianne, I'm glad you're here. You belong. And to our people who are on the phone who I don't know their names, I'm glad you're here. You belong. And so just let us take that now into our treatment today, just knowing, starting from the beginning, one power, one presence, one infinite source. That's all there is. And we are one with that. It has created us out of itself. It has created this planet, everything on it, created this universe, everything in it, out of itself. And yet it is not diminished by its creation. You can't use it up. One source, one supply. And so I speak this word today, knowing that there is love. The universe is absolutely abundant. It is love. I've heard it said that God is love. I've heard it said that love makes the world go round. And what I know is that love is everywhere present in every person. And so we fan that flame of love today. And this results in relationships growing and experiencing that joy. And I know there's an abundance of joy, abundance of creative energy, an abundance of prosperity. So I know this world to be filled with love. I know it to be an abundant world where people bring their time and talents in authentic ways. I know that this planet is perfect, whole, and complete, and that each person is doing their part to ensure this global heart, that a world that works for all. And so being for something and against nothing, I am in gratitude for this choice today, for the ability to choose. I'm in gratitude for the peace that transpires. I am glad for joy bubbling up. I am grateful for beauty that surrounds us. I'm grateful to walk in the light. And I'm grateful that this word is received by that divine law that simply says yes, and yes, and yes. And so in my gratitude, I let it be. I release, I let go. I invite you to affirm this by saying together, and so it is.